with the Flood Control District Communications team, and we are joined tonight by Harris County Precinct 2 Commissioner Adrian Garcia. I'd like to start the meeting off with remarks from him.
Good evening, everyone. This is Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia of Precinct 2. Thank you to the Harris County Flood Control District for hosting this meeting so that we can safely and effectively move forward with essential flood risk reduction projects. I also want to thank all of you, the residents, for taking time out of your day in the interest of bettering our community. A special shout out to Mr. Mickey, which I'm sure you're joining us tonight. Thank you for helping us get the word out on the meeting and always making sure we are on the right path to serving all of you. The project we are here to discuss will provide flood risk reduction along the Sims Bayou Watershed for the Edgebrook area. This project is especially exciting for the precinct because we have the opportunity to add a trail for future recreation, if, of course, that's what the community would like. I'm excited to participate in this session tonight to learn how this project will protect and benefit our neighborhoods. Thank you again to the Flood Control District for continuing to find new, safe ways to gather feedback and insights from the community during this pandemic. Community engagement is crucial to the work we do, and I hope each of you will provide your input during tonight's meeting and continue your engagement as the projects move forward in our region. Again, thank you and be safe.
Thank you so much for that, Commissioner Garcia. This virtual community engagement meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to continue to share vital information with the community during this period when in-person public meetings have been suspended due to safety concerns from the COVID-19 pandemic. I am joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on these important flood mitigation projects in your community. We are glad to see all of the community so engaged in this project and look forward to sharing updates. At this time, I'm going to transition over to Imelda for a message for our Spanish-speaking meeting participants. Imelda, over to you.
Buenas tardes. Gracias por asistir a la reunión de hoy. La presentación es para la cuenca de detención de South Shaver. La presentación de hoy está disponible en español en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Si tiene alguna pregunta durante la presentación, envíela en la sección de chat. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much for that, Imelda. This virtual meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including the construction schedule and other important information on the South Shaver Stormwater Detention Basin project. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or by phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event. Instructions on how to participate in this virtual open house are included on the slides, on the virtual meeting webpage, and the Flood Control District website. I will also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach the Q&A portion of the meeting. Now, I will transition over to Marcus Stuckett, our Engineering Division Director, who will share information about the district and this project.
Thank you, Sparkle, and a special thank you to each of you for joining us tonight. In this presentation, we'll give you a brief overview of this project. You'll have a chance to ask questions and learn more details during the open house portion of this meeting. Before we get to the project specifics, we want to share some information about the Harris County Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District, we are a special purpose district, and we were created by Texas legislature in 1937 in response that devastated the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District was created to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. Our mission has greatly expanded over 80 years with billions of dollars in infrastructure improvements in the ground. And while we are a separate entity from Harris County, the Harris County Commissioners Court serves as our governing body. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in highly urbanized areas. Harris County includes 22 main watersheds, totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. Tonight, we are in the Sims Bayou Watershed of Southeast Harris County. Our area is flood prone, and here are some reasons why. We're prone to extreme rainfall events such as hurricanes and tropical storms. We have flat, slow draining topography or landscape, and we have clay soils that do not absorb excess rainfall quickly. The Flood Control District works with other agencies and shares jurisdiction over flooding issues in Harris County. This slide illustrates that shared jurisdiction. Inside the neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and could start the process of moving it away from streets and homes. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality and Harris County Engineering in unincorporated parts of the county. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Flood Control District. When storm sewers are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. Since it is our policy to avoid impacts to downstream properties, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater runoff during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add additional recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of meetings across Harris County and each watershed, which resulted in what is now more than 181 bond projects, including more than $185 million in projects for the Sims Bayou Watershed. 7 out of the 12 projects in the Sims Bayou Watershed have been initiated. A total of more than $680 million in partnership funding received so far stretches the 2018 bond program even farther. The actual timing of individual projects will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation. Project lists and project schedules will be updated periodically. Partnership funding is an important aspect of the 2018 bond program. This graphic illustrates the many sources of federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding. For this project, we will be applying for the Community Development Block Grant Program Mitigation, or Cdbg MID. We will talk about these funds when we get to the next step portion of tonight's presentation. We will now move to the part of the program that is specifically about the Sims Bayou Watershed and the South Shaver Stormwater Detention Basin. The Sims Bayou Watershed covers about 94 square miles and includes about 121 miles of open channel streams within the watershed, which includes the 21 main stems and tributaries. The 2 main stems are Sims Bayou and Berry Bayou. The project we will be discussing with you this evening will impact the communities in the area of Berry Bayou downstream of the proposed basin. It seems counterintuitive, but downstream in this case is actually north of the proposed South Shaver Basin, as indicated by the arrows. Structural flooding has occurred numerous times along Berry Bayou and its tributaries, most notably and recently during Harvey and the Tax Day flood. Most of the structures that are flood prone were built prior to the existence of detailed floodplain maps and prior to the floodplain management regulations. The Harris County Flood Control District purchases property for the purpose of constructing flood mitigation projects. In the case of the South Shaver Stormwater Detention Basin, Flood Control purchased approximately 96 acres of land on either side of Berry Bayou, north of South Shaver Road, and east of Old Galveston Road to construct a flood damage reduction project. On April 7, 2020, the Harris County Commissioners Court authorized funding for the design, bidding, and construction of the Stormwater Detention Basin on this property. The Flood Control District considered several alternatives and evaluated the benefits of each for the communities downstream of the proposed basin site. Again, please remember that downstream is actually north of the project area. It was ultimately determined that the design offering the largest stormwater storage capacity and with the highest numbers of structures removed from the floodplain was the best option. As proposed, this basin will reduce the risk of flooding to neighborhoods downstream of the site by providing 420 acre-feet of storage and reduce the 100-year floodplain by 45 acres. This basin is designed to remove the 100-year floodplain from up to approximately 335 structures. It might be helpful to understand 1 acre-foot of stormwater detention. 1 acre-foot equates to the length of a football field from goal line to goal line, approximately 1 foot deep. This is approximately 326,000 gallons of stormwater. That means this basin would be able to store more than 137 million gallons of excess stormwater during high water events. This is equivalent to approximately 420 football fields. This land is currently undeveloped. There are 4 designated wetlands which remain intact and serve as an aesthetic once the basin is complete. The road highlighted here is Witt Road and is owned by the City of Houston. It is not operational or maintained and has become a safety hazard. For safety reasons and to add more volume to the basin, this road will be removed. The bridge crossing connecting the Millstead Middle School, which is now closed and secured, will also be removed. Harris County Precinct 2 has entered into an agreement with the Flood Control District to construct a new emergency access road connecting Hartsook Street to the middle school. Harris County Precinct 2 will build the road along the wastewater pipeline owned by the City of Houston. The road will provide access to the middle school property and serve as access for maintenance of the basin and the wastewater pipeline. Harris County Precinct 2 is funding this portion of the project and will maintain the road once it is complete. The City of Houston will maintain the wastewater pipeline. At the bottom left, there's a tree buffer of approximately 275 feet that will remain, as the property is not owned by the Flood Control District. Millstead Middle School will maintain the grassy vegetated area between the school and the basin. We've coordinated with the administration of the middle school and they have been supportive of our efforts. The Flood Control District is working with Harris County Precinct 2 and the City of Houston on possibly integrating future trails and amenities with connectivity to Wilson Memorial Park, located north of the basin, and provide connectivity to the school to provide outdoor learning opportunities. Harris County Precinct 2 plans to fund a trail system to connect the existing park to the north through the detention basin with additional connection points to the south at the existing sidewalks along South Shaver Street, and planning efforts for this will be led by Harris County Precinct 2. We're currently in the process of design and environmental permitting and expect final construction for this stormwater detention basin in summer of 2021. As mentioned, we are also working to secure federal grant funding through the Cdbg MIT program for this project. These funds are administered through the Texas General Land Office and are designed to fund activities to mitigate disaster risk and reduce flooding. Contingent upon approval of grant funding, we expect construction to begin in the fall of 2021.
Thanks, Marcus, for that helpful overview of this project. Before we move into the Q&A session tonight, I want to share a quick reminder that we would love to hear from you on this and other projects rolling out across Harris County. If you have additional comments or questions throughout the life cycle of the project, or if you would like to sign up to receive email updates on this or other projects in the watershed, please visit hcfcd.org/C10. Community engagement is an important component of the work we do, and we invite your continued participation as projects move forward. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on the site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at publicinput.com/South Shaver, or you can submit a comment via phone using meeting code 8244. If you're joining us tonight via phone, please press *3 to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event. Information from this meeting and a recording of this live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. Joining Marcus tonight for our Q&A session are Jennifer Hobbs and Jonathan St. Romain, who are both overseeing efforts on this project. And with that, I will take our first question. And our first question is for Jennifer. When this project is finished, will it be open to the public and include things such as walking paths like Crenshaw Park?
Hey, Sparkle, thank you for the question. And as Marcus stated before, and Commissioner Garcia stated in his statement in the beginning of the presentation, yes, Precinct 2 is interested in constructing trails post-project, and that's all dependent if the neighborhood does want these trails constructed, which it seems like it's been positive so far, and Precinct 2 will be leading that effort.
All right, thank you so much for that extra information. Our next question is for Marcus. Marcus, we have a question from Derek, and he wants to know how he can have his ditches cleaned up.
Yes, Spark, thank you for the question. So roadside ditches and storm sewers are typically the responsibility of the underlying municipality or Harris County Engineering in unincorporated areas of Harris County. If it's within the city of Houston, of course, you'd have to contact them to come out and that work. And if it's in the unincorporated areas of Harris County, it would be one of the precincts to handle that. So in this case, Derek, if you're in Precinct 2, you'd contact the Precinct 2 maintenance office, and they'll let you know what they can do to help you.
Thank you so much for that, Marcus. It's always helpful to understand who's responsible for what. Our next question is for Jennifer, and it's coming from a Mark Bynum. Mark, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Will the project help us to reduce flooding in the Genoa area?
Hi, thank you for the question. That area, it appears, is south of the project, so it's not, as Marcus stated before, the flow is goes north, which seems counterintuitive, but that's the way that it drains in this particular area. So this is considered upstream of the project. I'm not certain what projects are planned in that area, but we can find out and get back with you on that.
All right, thank you so much for that. Our next question is from a Robert Mullen, and the ditch on Gulf Palm says never mowed. Is it not maintained by the city like it should be? And I think, Marcus, if you'll take that question.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of similar to the same question that I answered for Derek, Mr. Bynum. I'm sorry, Mr. Mullen. It depends on the underlying community that you're in, or whether it's City of Houston or the precinct. So I really can't answer the question of is it regularly maintained, but if it's a City of Houston road, then they would maintain. If it's Precinct 2, then they would maintain it. So I would recommend figuring out which who has responsibility for the road and contacting that entity.
Yes, and you can absolutely send us an email at communications@hcfcd.org, and we'll follow up if you're having trouble understanding where it's located. We're happy to help. We have a question that is coming in for Marcus, and it is someone saying they do not understand the benefit slide. Does this mean once the basin is constructed that my home will never flood again?
Also a very good question. So one thing we can't say is that you'll never flood again, but what we can say is that there's a reduced benefit of flooding. So on the exhibit that's shown on the screen, the areas in pink are where we estimate the flood levels to be for a 100-year storm event. And after this project, it will be reduced to the green area. So the pink is what it looks like today. The green is the reduction. And so if you are directly within one of those areas, we would expect that you would see a significant reduction in flooding. However, we can't guarantee that you won't flood.
Thank you. Our next question is for Jennifer, and it's from John. John asks, so what will be done with the dredged soils?
Hey, John, great question. So Harris County Flood Control District has standards where the contractor that ends up being selected once we go to bidding will have to produce disposal sites. And these disposal sites will have to be approved by the Flood Control District, and they cannot be within the 100-year floodplain. So that is our typical standard for that.
Thank you so much. And we have a comment coming in from Melissa, who thanks us for the detailed presentation. I do want to note that we are taking these questions live, and we will do our best to answer all of the questions in the next 30 plus minutes. But any questions that are not addressed during tonight's Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event. So we appreciate your engagement and thank you for being here with us tonight. Our next question is for Jennifer. And Jennifer, one of our meeting participants wants to know, how does this project work with other planned or ongoing efforts in the watershed?
Thanks for the question. So this project right now is, there's multiple projects within the watershed, but it will provide detention for any future mitigation projects too that we could do in the channels. And this could also, as Marcus stated before, in the project benefit area, we are reducing flood risk downstream of the project, which is north. So that could also provide benefit for the city of Houston if they were to upgrade their storm sewer systems and provide detention mitigation for that, though that's not underway at this time, but this is a pretty large area, and so that can provide a multitude of different benefits.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Jennifer, this next one will be for you as well. Who will maintain this project?
So the Flood Control District owns the property, so we would maintain the detention basin. Now, if the precinct does construct trails after the project is complete, they would be responsible for maintaining the trails. And as Marcus stated before, they will be maintaining the new roadway connection to the Millstead Middle School. And the city of Houston would maintain their sanitary sewer system.
Okay. Another question for you. Jennifer's popular tonight. Jennifer, will the storm sewers on South Shaver drain to this pond?
So no, I don't believe, and from everything we have, we don't have the South Shaver systems draining into the pond. Though there is an existing TxDOT pond that was part of some upgrades that they did. So anything that TxDOT has already mitigated in that pond will be part of this increased mitigation effort.
Okay, our next question is for Marcus. When will construction start and how long will our neighborhood be disrupted?
So we expect construction for this project to start in fall of 2021. And of course, that's all dependent upon how things go with us submitting the Cdbg mid application. And you will likely see some disruption in neighborhood with having trucks out and in and out through the neighborhood doing different routes. Recognizing that there is a school in the area, we do make sure that we let the contractors know that there are certain times that they can operate and have truck traffic and make sure proper traffic controls are available. For length of time, we aren't in the design phase yet, but we typically figure out the time of construction during the design phase. But for most of our projects, it's usually about 300 days, plus or minus.
Thank you. It's always good to know a timeline on projects. I'm going to go back to Jennifer to provide a little more clarity on an earlier question related to the storm sewers on South Shaver.
Hey, thanks, Sparkle. Yes, just to clarify about how South Shaver drains, there's a box culvert that it currently drains into. So it does not currently drain into the basin, nor will it post-construction. It will drain as it was designed to function.
Okay, thank you so much. Marcus, this next question is from Yvette. There's a new 75 home subdivision going in where it was wooded. It was a wooded area recently right next to the storm ditch. And the builders are putting in a detention pond, but in her neighbor's opinion, that pond is insufficient given that they deforested the entire area. The trees absorb a lot of water. Is the flood control district keeping up on this development as well?
Yes, while I don't specifically know the development that she's speaking of, so the way our regulations work is for areas where they either fill or put in impervious cover, there's some form of detention that's required. And so while an area that's not forested, I'm going to throw a number out, it absorbs 1 gallon of water, then a developer is required to provide, say, 2 gallons of water. So the fact that it's developed and they're providing that detention helps mitigate the fact that they remove the trees from the area.
Okay, thank you for that. Our next question is for Jennifer, and it's from Carol Tompkins. Is this site an extension of the retention pond near Galveston and Shaver, or is it a different location?
Hey, thanks for your question, Carol. I'm going to answer this in 2 different ways because you might be talking about 2 different ones. There is one right across the street that is on Galveston Road and intersects with Crenshaw, and that is an existing basin. And there is a project going on right now. It's a partnership between us and the city of Houston that we are going to expand that basin. That's a separate project from this one, but that is also something that the flood control district will be doing through our department. And additionally, if you were talking about the existing TxDOT pond, then yes, that is the location right here. I know there's a couple things going on in that area, but 2 really great projects coming within this area.
Okay. Marcus, our next question is for you. Is all of the funding for this project bond money?
No, so we had a portion of the project where we expected that we would use bond funds, but we also anticipated that we would seek additional funding by applying for grant with one of the partners that we've identified. And in this case, it'll be the Cdbg mid funds that's being handled by the GLO.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to go back to Imelda for a reminder for our Spanish-speaking meeting participants.
Buenas tardes. Recuerde que si tiene alguna pregunta durante la presentación, puede enviarla en la sección de chat.
Thank you. Our next question is from John. What is the primary mechanism by which storm water will fill the pond? Is it sheet runoff? And that question's for you, Jennifer.
Hey, thanks, John. While there will be some sheet runoff, it's primarily going to be from the channel that bisects the 2 main sections of the pond is where most of that water will be coming from.
Okay. Our next question, again, is for Jennifer, and it's from Richard. Richard, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where does the stormwaters off Shaver now go? Where do they go? All right, Jennifer, over to you.
South Shaver, I believe, runs to those box culverts and then ultimately drains out through Berry Bayou system. Or I'm sorry, the Berry Bayou system, but it does not go through our detention basin. I'm assuming he's talking about the road.
Okay, thank you. Our next question will be for Marcus. What happens if we do not get CDBG MIT funding?
So if it turns out that we don't receive the funding, we do have other sources that we can attempt to retrieve or receive funding from. But if we don't, then the flood control district will use whatever remaining bond funds we have after design to construct as much of the basin as we can.
Okay, thank you for that. At this time, I want to share a reminder about where you can find out more information about projects in your area. The Harris County Flood Control District website is a resource and a plethora of information. So if you have additional comments or questions throughout the life cycle of this project, or if you would like to sign up to receive email updates on any projects in your watershed, hcfcd.org/C10 for this specific project, or just the website in general for information on projects really across Harris County. We encourage you to use the website as a resource for more information. And as a reminder, there are a couple of ways to submit a comment tonight about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at publicinput.com/South Shaver. Or you can submit a comment via phone using the meeting code 8244. If you're joining us tonight via phone, just press *3 and leave a message. I want to once again state that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event, and we'll be posting the meeting video on the YouTube channel and on the district's website. And with that, I'll transition back into the Q&A portion of this meeting. And this question comes from James. Again, James, welcome. Thank you for joining us. My question is, when is this project is completed, the ditch that runs from the detention pond, will it really be viable? It runs from Millstead School and then it connects to the concrete on a very busy Guilford Street. Will this ditch be a concrete line from the detention pond or to the Gilpin area? And Jennifer, I'll pass that one over to you.
Hey, great question. The current project right now doesn't have any actual channel improvements in the area. It's strictly a detention basin at this time. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to do channel additions in the future, but no, there will not be any concrete lining as part of it. So how this project will function is when there's a rain event, the basin will fill up, hold the water there, and then once that channel goes down, which we call C-106-0000 in Harris County Flood Control District terms, it's slowly going to drain everything off into that channel when that channel has the capacity to slowly take some of that water off of the property.
Okay, Jennifer, and another question for you. Do you know yet where the construction traffic will access the area?
Hey, another good question. We're working on the final design right now, but in my mind, the existing Witt Road that is closed down by the city of Houston would likely be the most viable access for the contractor because it connects right there to State Highway 3, which is Old Galveston Road, and it would provide the least amount of I guess, conflict with any adjacent neighborhoods, the schools. It kind of keeps everything away from other businesses and such too. So in my mind, that would be the most ideal spot for our construction entrance.
Thanks, Jennifer. We have another question that has come in, and Jennifer, I'll pose this one to you as well. The image looks like a lake. Will the project hold water outside of storm events too?
Yes, so this basin is considered what we call a wet bottom detention basin. So it will hold approximately, usually no more than 6 feet of water in the bottom of the basin when it's not full, when it's not completely full. And you can see kind of the little areas where there are wetland spots where we're protecting as well. So yes, it will be a wet bottom basin, and that's considered kind of like dead space. So it's not true detention volume. So we don't count that when we actually talk about the detention volume that this basin is capable of holding.
Okay, and we know that you all have busy schedules and not everyone was able to join us directly at 6:30. So we want to go back and cover some of the presentation slides to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get all of the information on this project. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Marcus.
All right, thank you, Sparkle. The details of the project. So we're in the Sims Bayou Watershed. We have about 94 square miles, and it consists of 121 stream miles of open channels and main tributaries, with Berry Bayou and Sims being the main stems within the watershed. The area drains from north to south, which is different than the way we typically think of the way water flows. And so this is what is represented by the areas that are shown in black here. Most of the structures that flood in this area, we realize were built prior to our current understanding of regulations and floodplain maps, and prior before we had anything in place. So flood control, we purchased this property for the purpose of to build the detention basin for mitigation. And it's about 96 acres of land that's bound on either side by Berry Bayou, north of South Shaver Road and east of Old Galveston Road. And on April 7, 2020, Harris County Commissioners Court authorized us to do the design, bidding, and construction for this stormwater detention basin. So we looked at several alternatives and evaluated what the benefits would be for the communities downstream. And again, everything is draining up to the north, so it's coming from the south and going up north. We ultimately decided that the best design was to get as much detention volume or storage volume as we could, because that would give us the most bang for our buck, if you will. We're providing approximately 420 acre-feet of storage and removing approximately 335 structures from this inundation area that's shown on this map. So I just mentioned that we were providing a 420 acre-feet. And so what 420 acre-feet is if you think of it like a football field going from about goal line to goal line, 1 foot deep, that equates to approximately 326,000 gallons of stormwater. And so for this project, this 420 acre-feet of volume is equal to about 137 million gallons of excess stormwater that can be stored. And that's equivalent to about 420 football fields. So the land is currently undeveloped. There's a small detention basin there, but there are 3 wetlands that we intend to leave intact, so to provide some learning opportunities and aesthetics for the area. So the road that's highlighted here is it's the existing Witt Road. It's owned by the city of Houston. We worked with the city of Houston and with our team and made the decision that for safety reasons and it being a hazard, and it also gives us more volume, to just remove this road from the project. And the bridge that once connected that road to the middle school will also be removed. So Harris County Precinct 2 entered into agreement with flood control to construct this new road that's shown here on this exhibit to connect Hartsook Street to the middle school. Harris County Precinct 2 plans to build the road, and once they finish the road, it'll be maintained by the precinct, and the City of Houston will maintain the pipeline. It'll also provide access for the district to maintain the basin. So just west of the basin here, there's a 275-foot tree buffer that will remain in place because the flood control district doesn't own the property. The middle school will maintain the grassy area that's just east of it. And we've been coordinated with the middle school, so we've built a relationship with them, and they're supportive of the project. We're also, again, working with Precinct 2 and the City of Houston to put in a few trails that are shown here, potential trails that are shown here on this exhibit by the dotted yellow lines. And also provide opportunities for the middle school to access the basin, to use those wet features and those wetlands and things that I mentioned previously. The precinct will fund the trail and plan to connect it to the existing park to the north, and also connect it to the south along the existing sidewalks for Shaver. Again, the precinct 2 will be leading this effort. So right now where we are, we're currently in the design stage of the project and working on our environmental permitting, and we expect for the construction to start in summer 2021, in fall of 2021. And as I mentioned previously, this is a Cdbg MIT project that we are expecting to receive funding from the grant funds, and that's led up by the General Land Office. And so contingent on that, again, we'll start construction in fall 2021.
All right, thank you, Marcus. So many great questions tonight. Thank you all for your engagement and participation. Now I will transition back into the Q&A portion of the meeting. Will the potential trails you talked about connect with the parks area already in the area, and who will maintain the trails? And Jennifer, I'll pass that question to you.
Thanks, Sparkle. Yes, so the potential trails would be constructed by Harris County Precinct 2, and it would, as they propose, connect to the park to the north, which is Wilson Park, which I believe is a City of Houston maintained park. So the trails in this case would be maintained by Harris County Precinct 2.
Thank you. Our next question is for Marcus. Are you working with other local entities like the City of Houston on this effort?
Yes, and so, Wood Road was a City of Houston road, and that's one of the ones that we will be removing, but they also own the pipeline that is that I mentioned along the western boundary of the project that will connect to the middle school. So that pipeline there, their coordination portion of that is understanding that we're going to build the precinct will build a new road there, and the maintenance responsibility would be on the City of Houston for that.
Okay, Marcus, and the next question is for you as well. This is great, but we need more projects in our area. Can you tell us what's next for our community?
And so, for the Sims Bayou Watershed, there are still 3 projects that we haven't gotten into, that we haven't authorized yet. And there's also the Sims Bayou Watershed studies that we're working on. And so some of those additional projects that may come out of this haven't been identified other than the ones that are currently in the bond.
Okay, thank you. And Jennifer, I'm going back to you for the next question. What happens if the basin fills up and overflows?
Wow, good question. That means that would be another Harvey event, so we hope that doesn't happen. No, but a great question. So how, again, these detention basins work and are designed to work is that it would take in flow from that channel until it gets to the point of its capacity, and then it wouldn't take any more flow. And at that point, if it was a very, very, very extreme anomaly of an event, it's likely the channel would overflow first rather than the basin. That's not to say it could never happen, but we do design these basins for the new 100-year storm event.
Thank you, Jennifer, for providing that clarity. And the next question is for you as well. How many homes does this project help?
Sorry, I was muted there. Hey, good question. So potentially, as far as structures being removed from the floodplain, it can be up to over 350 structures is what we're looking at right now. It could be more than that once we get further into analysis, but that is what we're seeing right now. That doesn't mean it doesn't help other homes and your ability to access your home as far as street flooding goes during an event too, whereas maybe you didn't get water in your home during some of these extreme events, but you couldn't access your roadway. So you may see that additional benefit as well that doesn't show up as per se like a structure being removed from the floodplain.
Okay, Jennifer, our next question, we have Leon who's trying to understand, would it not have been possible to make the drainage under South Shaver larger to help drain the homes south of South Shaver?
So South Shaver is not a road that's maintained by Harris County Flood Control District, so we do not have jurisdiction over that and being able to enlarge any of their storm sewer. That would be up to the entity, which I believe is TxDOT. And right now, TxDOT does have some mitigation into that basin from some of the improvements they did do to, I believe, South Shaver Street several years back. So this detention basin would specifically serve more of the residential areas downstream of the basin.
Okay, we have a question coming in about how to receive information after this meeting. So I want to remind everyone that if you have additional comments or questions throughout the life cycle of this project, or if you just want to sign up to receive email alerts on this or other projects in the watershed, please visit hcfcd.org/C10 to learn more about the project. I encourage you to sign up for those email alerts. We are continually promoting it to residents and encouraging them to get engaged and to learn more about what's happening in their community. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on the site in the box near the presentation live stream, or submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website, and that link is there listed on the screen. You can also, if you are joining us tonight via phone, press *3 and leave a message. Any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be posted and available on the website and the district's YouTube channel. And with that, Jennifer, I have a question for you. What environmental considerations were taken on this project?
Hey, yeah. So as far as this project goes, as Marcus talked about earlier, there are 4 wetlands that we're protecting. So when we did our due diligence in the preliminary engineering phase of the project, we identified these 4 wetlands, and we did all of our standard submittals to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And as part of that, we were going to protect those wetlands, as well as meet all of the additional requirements by TCEQ and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that we're protecting any native species or endangered species out there on the project site.
Thank you. Our next question is, we've heard a lot about the 100-year floodplain, and what does that mean? And Marcus, would you take that one?
Yeah, so what the 100-year floodplain means, and I know a lot of people tend to think that a 100-year storm means that it will only happen once every 100 years. But what it actually is, it's a probability estimation that there's a 1% chance that you would see an event that meets or exceeds that amount of rainfall within any given year. So it's highly likely that you'd have multiple 100-year storm events within a given year, or you can have one year and you go 5 years and you won't see one. So it's a probability estimation of 1% of meeting or exceeding that event within a given year.
Okay, and Marcus, a follow-up to that question is coming in from Mary Lou. She doesn't understand the map that shows the 100-year year floodplain area, the one with the pink and the yellow, et cetera. What does that mean? Her house is on Gilpin and Rodney, and she's trying to understand how this project will impact her.
Yes. So this 100-year floodplain that we've defined here, again, this isn't based on the FEMA mapping of the 100-year, but it does use the amount of rainfall from that event. And what this map shows is that currently, right now, based on a 1% in any given year storm, that the area along Gilpin will see a reduction. I don't know how many feet because it's not called out, but there will be a reduction for the homes within that area for that 1% chance in any given year event.
All right, Jennifer, back to you for this next question. How does digging around a wetland save it?
Yeah, great question. So it's not just simply digging around the wetland. We'll protect it with fencing and other protections that are cited from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and our really great environmental team at Flood Control District to make sure we do everything possible to make sure these wetlands are not disturbed. And that's something that will be required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we will make sure to follow all of their guidelines.
Thank you. And we have another question coming in from Leon. Leon, thank you for joining us tonight and thank you for being engaged. This question is for Marcus. How can I learn more about the district mowing schedule?
Yes, thanks again, Leon. So we currently have 3 mowing cycles within the district. And those mowing cycles can be found on our website at www.hcfc.org. And you'll find a link there that will, somewhere in the middle of the page, if you scroll down, you'll have a link to go to several different applications that are on the site. And one of those shows our mowing schedules, and it tells you the times and periods in which we mow.
Yeah, and specifically on the website, it's under maintenance. And you can also use our very robust search engine on the site if you're looking for the mowing schedule. So thank you so much for providing that information. And now I have another question for you, Marcus. If construction doesn't start for a year, what happens if it floods between now and when the basin is built?
And I mean, the only answer to that question is it would be the same as what it is now. So until the project is in the ground, the actual benefits won't be realized for the neighborhood. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's all hope that does not happen. Jennifer, the next question is for you. Are you buying any homes or businesses for this project?
Thankfully, no. So this is a project where we luckily do not have any known right-of-way issues or even encroachment issues, which helps a lot to speed these projects along. And the district already had the hindsight to purchase this property in the early 2000s. So no, to answer that question, we do not have any planned homes or businesses to purchase for this project.
Okay, thank you. Marcus, at this time, would you mind if we go back to the slide that includes the project schedule and give folks a reminder of what that schedule looks like and what they can expect?
Yes. So again, right now we're working on the design phase. Our design phase usually takes us anywhere from 9 months to a year and a half, especially when it comes to the environmental permitting portion. Once we get through the design, assuming that everything goes well with our funding, then we'll proceed to construction in fall 2021. And as I mentioned previously, construction is usually somewhere plus or minus 300 days. So you could be looking at anywhere from a year to a year and a half, just depending on what type of problems we encounter during construction. In the event that we are unsuccessful in receiving the grant funds, then we will have to modify our plan and try to get as much done with the funds that we currently have now.
Absolutely. And we are getting a lot of very neighborhood specific questions. And, we are doing our best to answer all of the questions, but in some instances, we need a little more context surrounding those questions. So I just want to reiterate that any questions that are not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the event. So we do intend on following up with you. It's just in this setting, it's sometimes difficult to get all of the intricacies of your specific situation and to answer your question to the fullest. And we want to make sure we are being diligent in responding and giving you those quality responses that I know you all want. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on the site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can also submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website, which the link is listed here on your screen. Or if you are joining us tonight via phone, just press *3 and ask a question, and we will be happy to answer it. Additionally, I'll just reiterate again, we intend to follow up with everyone who does not receive an answer to their question tonight. And you can look forward to finding the live stream of this meeting on the Flood Control District's website and on our YouTube channel. With that, we had a question earlier, but it looks like we've gotten a repeat. So Marcus, I'm going to go back to you for this. Can you tell us a little bit about how this project fits into the bond program?
Yes, so the intent of the bond program was to develop some flood damage, give us funding to do flood damage reduction projects. Just to give you an idea of scale, flood control typically operated with $60 million in funds for capital improvement projects and another $60 million for operations and maintenance. By us having the bond election and receiving the funds for the bond, it allowed us to be able to move some projects that probably would not have moved as quickly because it would have had to compete with other sources for funding. It allowed us to be able to move some of these projects a lot faster than we would have. So in the case of this project, it would have competed with several other projects that may or may not have scored well. So while we're still looking towards having some CDBG mitigation funding assist us with the construction of the project, we probably would not have been able to push it as far as we have now with design and at least being able to start doing something with the property and something for flood damage reduction in the area had it not been for the bond election.
Okay, we're about 2 minutes out before we have to close our meeting for tonight, but we've had 2 more questions come in and we do want to get to those. So Jennifer, both of these questions will be for you. The first is, do we plant things that keep us from attracting mosquitoes? And then a follow-up to that question, or an additional question, will be, if you've owned this since the early 2000s, why is the project just now happening?
Okay, I'll get to both of those. So the good thing about the wetlands still being there is that promotes a lot of wildlife, and that, brings other animals that eat mosquitoes. And I believe the environmental group will put a lot of plantings in that kind of prevents that sort of thing from happening. They've done a lot of different unique things here lately and in the past to mitigate, attracting a lot of mosquitoes. And to your other question, and additionally too, this deeper water would attract more fish that also eat mosquitoes. And additionally to your question about the early 2000s, funding became available with the bond project. I can't speak to funding in this area beforehand, but it's a heavily wooded area. It's a very expensive project, which is why we're utilizing the bond and hopeful to get this CDBG funding or other partnership funding in order to build this really important project.
All right, and with that, I'd like to share one final reminder that we are continuing to accept comments and feedback on this project through the comment period, which runs through September 24th, but we welcome engagement throughout the duration of this project's life cycle. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and your very active engagement with this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe and have a lovely evening.